quote, "If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right," unquote. And that's from
Love
Truett
it.
Cathy. Welcome to the Waves Business Coaching Podcast, where we help business leaders build their dream team. This week on the podcast, we're entering in to one of our last two episodes about my new book, Master Your First Job. This book is for first-time employees to help them get the most out of their first job and advance their career. The book lays out a remarkable path from first day to first promotion. In this episode, we're talking about chapter 10 of the book, which is Have Fun. And you might think, well, why do you need a chapter to teach people how to have fun? I'll tell you why, because I needed to be taught how to have fun at work at my first job. So I talk about my struggle with having fun at my first job and why, and then some really good ways to make sure employees are actually having fun at their first job and enjoying it and getting the most out of it so that they don't look back later with regret about, those are the glory days and I wish I would have enjoyed it then. So some fun stories coming as well from the book and one that's not in the book that we'll talk about. So let's dive into my interview with Addie, where she's interviewing me about chapter 10 of the book, Have Fun and Master Your First Job.
Hey, Jacob. Today we're going to talk about the last chapter of your book, which is kind of crazy that we're here already. This chapter is all about having fun. It's my favorite chapter because I love to have fun, but I just think it's going to be a fun conversation today. And we have some really funny questions that I love, but and I hope that the listeners love it as well. But before we dive into all of that, tell us, sadly, for the last time, hopefully not the last time, but
It will not be the last time.
it's not the last. Yeah.
Last in this series of episodes.
Last in this series of episodes, exactly. So who is Master Your First Job written for, and what is it about?
Yeah, so Master Your First Job was written for first-time employees. I just know that too many first-time employees struggle to navigate their first job successfully. Their first job becomes just a paycheck. They get paid. They hopefully get trained at some point, do their job, and their first job becomes just a line item on a resume and nothing more. And so I wrote Master Your First Job for that employee to give them a proven plan, a remarkable path from first day to first promotion. And what it really is it took me 10 years, I think, to master my first job. And I happened to work at my first job for 10 years at multiple levels, of course. I started a Chick-fil-A restaurant and ended up getting to work at the corporate office, which was a dream since I started my first job and loved it. Loved being able to do that. So 10 years of working at my first job, I figured out how to do it well. And so I want to give everyone else a 10-year head start and say, if I could go back in time and hand myself a handbook and say, hey, to start practicing this now, that's exactly what this is. It's this book, Master Your First Job. And I really do believe if you put into action what you read and what you learn in the book, that you can master your first job and use your first job as a stepping stone for your career, and you'll learn lessons that will pay dividends. I'm talking 25 years into your career, it will pay dividends, because these aren't just lessons that are just for people in their first job, but they are lessons that will help you master your first job and advance your career later on in life. So that's who the book's about. That's who it's for. And that's why I wrote it.
Love it. So all about having fun. Why do you emphasize the importance of enjoying the moment and finding joy at work?
Yeah. So it's funny. I knew I was going to have a chapter about having fun at some point in the book for a couple of reasons. One, which I'll get to, I think I forgot to have fun at several points during my journey because I'm super competitive and wanted to be good at my job, and stuff at work is going to inevitably bother you and get under your skin, and I think I forgot how to have fun some. But obviously I worked at Chick-fil-A, and Truett Cathy is an inspiration to me. I know that anyone that worked at Chick-fil-A looks up to him, and even if you don't work at Chick-fil-A, you've probably heard about Truett Cathy and the Cathy family. And I started this chapter with a quote from Truett, and it's, quote, "If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right," unquote. And that's from Truett Cathy. And this is typically in a lot of Chick-fil-A restaurants with a picture of him hula hooping, I believe at a seminar event that Chick-fil-A had back in the day. And Truett was big on having fun. And I've heard stories from people who worked with Truett about how they just how much fun he had and practical jokes he'd pull and stuff like that. And so I'd always read that, but I think I emphasize the importance because I think it took me a long time to take that to heart, or realize in the moment that we were having a lot of fun, because I think it's easy to miss that sometimes and take in the moment, enjoy those moments. That was hard for me, and that's why I
Yeah.
wrote about it in this chapter.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to discuss the balance between pursuing career goals and embracing being present at work?
You know me, obviously, but I'm ultra competitive, and once I knew what what the carrot was, in a sense, I was all in pursuing that, and I knew that, like, what the goal was, how I was going to get there, what the path was in order for me to get a long term career with Chick-fil-A and getting that job at the support center, the corporate office, and I was like, I'm all in, like blinders on, like a racing horse, and like, here we go. Like, this is what I need to do. Let's go. So I think, though, in that, I lost sight of how to enjoy my job, or even that I was enjoying my job. It's like the fun
Yeah.
moments meant nothing because it was like, yeah, that was fun, but like, here's the goal. And
Right.
maybe I'm alone in that, but maybe there's other people out there who are like that, who are like, you know what? I know what I need to do. Um, and maybe it's like, hey, this first job is just, again, it's a checkbox of I had a job, it's something to put on a resume that showed that I did work, and that's it. There's nothing more. So blinders on, like, there's no need to take anything from my first job. It's just a job, and no need to have fun. And so I saw both sides of that, and me on one side and other people on the other, and I think I lost sight of how to have fun at work, and
Yeah.
or the fact that I was having fun. And so I really wanted to talk about the balance of, like, how to do both well, and how you can like pursue career goals and be all in, but also you can take time to enjoy the moment. And I had people, again, it took me 10 years, I think, to figure out how to do it well. I don't think I did it well then. It
Yeah.
took a lot of reflection to be like, wow, these really were some of my favorite days,
Oh.
at work, and how much fun I really did have at my first job.
Yeah. So, speaking of your favorite days, you mentioned a quote from Andy Bernard from The Office
Yeah.
in the book. How on earth did The Office make it into a book about a first job?
Number one, it's the greatest comedy show of all time. So that, even with a bad season 9, what a shame. Season 8 wasn't terrible to
Oh.
me, but a bad season 9. Last episode is great, and
Yeah.
Andy in the last episode, says something, and I'll read the quote from the book here, but he says, "I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them." And it's like, man,
Oh.
that hit home for me, because I'm like, how often in life, at any stage, not just job stuff, but
Yeah.
do you get to the end of something and be like, man, I wish I knew I was in the good old days when I was actually in them, so I could have enjoyed them more. It's like,
Yeah.
so many people end seasons with regret and have that feeling of like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I wish there was a way to know that was like going to be the best it was ever going to be. And not in a depressing way where it's like life can't get any better, but I know that multiple friends of mine that I worked with at Chick-fil-A have all looked back and been like, those are the glory days. Like, that was it. All, getting to work with all our best friends, working long hours, like working hard, goofing off, having fun. Like, those were the glory days. And now we're all in different stages of life. And not that
Yeah.
we're not all enjoying life, but we're like, man, that was the season where we were all together doing that fun thing. And like, there's a part of us that misses it a little bit. And so I wanted to write it in there as a reflection point of, hey, if you're in your first job like I was, and you're having these fun times, and you're meeting your best friends, and like, you're having fun at work, enjoy it. Take time to enjoy it. And I talked through a little bit like how to do that well, because you don't want to get to the end and be like, man, I feel like I missed out on the good old days. And I wish I would have realized it was the good old days when I was actually there. And I think that quote just encapsulates that perfectly.
It does, for real. Kind of going off script here. In the spirit of having fun, what is your
Yeah.
favorite office
Dinner Party. I mean,
dinner
it's
party for
just, I
sure?
think it's a perfect comedy episode of TV. And I think if you think that Dinner Party is cringy, that I will raise you several other way cringier episodes of The Office.
I
Like,
completely agree.
I think
Yeah.
that's like the very basic answer of like, oh, it's the cringiest episode, like that or Scott's Tots. I think Scott's Tots is way more cringy, even though I think that's funny
Oh,
too.
even like the title, I'm
I'm
like,
like, there's way cringier episodes, like when Andy realizes he's dating a high schooler. That is way more cringy than dinner party. That's way more uncomfortable. So yeah, dinner
That's
party is
so
my favorite
funny.
episode. I think it's a perfect episode of television. I could probably do a podcast episode just on that episode of The Office, but
So
that is
funny.
my favorite episode.
I agree. That's mine too. And it's something that we clicked on when we first met too. But that's another story for another time. Great show. If you haven't watched it, watch it. Maybe don't start with dinner party if you're a
Yeah,
newbie.
you still gotta.
You just got to
It's
ease
not the
yourself
cringiest
into
episode, but
it
you've got to ease into dinner party for
because
sure.
there's just a lot all at once. There's a lot to unpack there. Okay, so going back to Andy's quote, um, how can people be more present and enjoy the moment then?
So I had a friend of mine tell me this, and if you're like me and you struggle with like the pursuit of what's next, and again, that's not a bad thing at all. I think it's a very good thing. But if you struggle with, I only focus on what's next, I can't enjoy the moment. I'm just like I'm so hyper focused on the next thing.
Yeah.
Um, I had a friend tell Austin Sullivan, shout out to Austin. I think he said this in a meeting once, but he just said, if I could tell myself, or if I could show myself 3 years ago where I am right now, like what would 3 years ago me say? And this is when we had our jobs at the corporate office. And look, no job is perfect. I got my dream job of getting to work at the corporate office, but there were times where we're struggling. We're like, man, like
Yeah.
what we're in right now is not the best. And
Right.
that was his encouragement, is like, man, but if I could show myself 3 years ago where I am right now, how proud would I be of where
Yeah.
I am right now? And so I think take time to enjoy the view. And an analogy I use is like climbing up a mountain. Like, yes, it can be so frustrating if you're just looking up at the peak and being like, okay, a little bit more, a little bit more. Like, we still have a long way to go at the peak.
Dude,
But
yeah.
sometimes it's really good to just pause and instead of looking up, look back down and look around and enjoy the view where you are.
That's
Because,
sweet.
again, as you're climbing up that mountain, like, you're never going to have the view that you have right now ever again.
That's great.
And so take time to pause and enjoy the view you have right now. Again, balance it all. It's okay to look at the peak and say, we have this much farther to go.
Right.
It's great to look at the bottom and say, look how far we've come. It's also great to just pause and be like, I'm never going to have this view again. Let me enjoy it. And I think life's the same way. And if you're at your first job, you're never going to have your first job again. So enjoy where you are, be present where your feet are, and enjoy your first job.
Yeah.
Second, and I mentioned like Austin saying, look how far you've come. Like, I think it's great to look down. So, like, look around, enjoy the view, look down. And then lastly, just reflect. And this is something that I did. It's funny, like, early at my first job, I did it well. And then I've done it a lot more now, is journaling. I think journaling is an excellent exercise to just reflect on what's happening. And
Mm-hmm.
I journal a lot more on my work experiences, I guess, like not the fun stuff. I journaled a lot more of like results I was getting because again, I was so hyper focused on I'm going to need these results later to get the job I want. And so like
Yeah.
I'm writing down everything I did to like get certain results in the business and stuff like that. And again, I didn't journal of like normal feelings of like, hey, we did this today and it was so fun and my friend did this and it made me laugh. I think that is such a healthy exercise that again, this is even beyond first jobs. So this is just life advice. I think if you can build good journaling habits now, that will pay dividends in life later.
Yeah.
It's just a great and easy exercise to reflect on like where you are, what you're doing, what you're feeling. I think there's a lot of power in just writing something down.
Mm-hmm.
Good and bad feelings. I think writing down bad feelings and then closing the notebook and coming back to it later.
We're done. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get like write it down while you're emotional, come back when you're not, and be like, okay, that was valid and that wasn't.
Yeah.
That's just a
good.
great life exercise. So enjoy where you are, enjoy the current view. Take time to look back down the mountain and then appreciate how far you've come.
Yeah.
And then lastly, journal, reflect on the experiences you're having, and write it down. And you'll be able to look back later and be like, wow, that was so fun. I'm glad that I wrote down those memories.
Yeah. I love it. Well, to kind of wrap up, share a personal story that didn't make it in the book, where you prioritized enjoying having fun at work and how that positively impacted your career experience.
Yeah, I'll say we're going to do an episode next week of stories that were in the book, stories that didn't make the book
I'm
with
so
people that I
excited.
worked with. So that'll
Yeah.
be a lot of fun to record some fun stories of the stuff that happened to work. That'll be a fun one-off episode. I don't know if there will be anything helpful, but it will be a really fun listen as far as just like stuff I got to experience at my
Just
first job. And
laugh alongside us as we
yeah,
rehash these stories.
I think the statute of limitations is up, so we'll see what we can and can't share.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But no,
Brilliant.
I'm just kidding.
That's
Nothing terrible.
awesome.
A story that didn't make it in the book, I'll share the only time I've been written up at work. So a write up, if you're
Amazing.
unfamiliar, it's just like a disciplinary form that's
Yeah.
an official documentation that you got a talking to, basically. Whatever. Different businesses have different systems of like, oh, if
So
you get
funny.
3 write-ups, it's a suspension or whatever. I don't know.
Oh,
Different people do
yeah.
different stuff. But I only have one time where I got like in 10 years that I got documented in trouble for something I did. And it was at my first job at Chick-fil-A. I was in leadership at this time. So I got to be like, we called it MOD, manager on duty. So I was in charge of the whole restaurant from 2 to close on Monday nights for a period of time. And on one of these Monday nights, it was great because if we're being honest, one of my best friends, Daniel, made the schedule. And so he always stacked the schedule on Mondays with people that we were friends with, which was awesome. And so Monday nights were always fun because we always had a good crew there of people I enjoyed working with. Yeah, so one of these nights I was counting money in the back office and like putting drawers away. And like someone knocked on the office door and it was my friend Hunter who came in and said, "Hey, you've got to come see this." And I'm like, "Okay, let me finish this up. Like, are y'all done?" And like, yeah, they were done closing the kitchens. Like everyone was done with their responsibilities and they were just doing something in the back. I was like, "Okay, I'll be there in a second." And I walk around the corner towards the back door of the restaurant, and you have to understand the back door of our Chick-fil-A at the time, like it was a back door, and then it was like a little bit of a downhill slope where the concrete was, and then you had the
Yeah.
drive-through lane, and on the end of the drive-through lane was like a rounded curb that was separating the drive-through from the parking lot in the back.
Right.
This is one of those classic drive-throughs that actually went around the building, unlike a lot of Chick-fil-A drive-throughs that are complicated now. Anyway, so what they were doing was Hunter was sitting inside of a mop bucket, and someone else was pushing him like out the back door very quickly, letting him go down the little slope, and then the drive-through, like through the drive-through lane, and then like jumping the curb basically because it was curved. And so then you'd get a little bit of air doing this, and I thought it was so funny. And so I videoed one of their runs doing this, one of their multiple runs of them doing this, and videoed it and put it on my Snapchat story. And just because I was like, this is
Rookie mistake.
hilarious. Yeah. So did not participate. I just videoed.
Yeah.
So like they're done, we close, whatever. I go in the next day. I think I worked a morning shift the next day, and my boss Jeremy was like, "You need to go to the office," or something like that. And someone's like, "Jeremy's mad at you," and I'm like, "For what?" I'm like, "What did I do?" And so I go in the office, and he has like the video like pulled up or something like that, and I forget how it was.
That's so
And
funny though.
he's like mad about this, and my thing is, Jeremy, like we would all pull pranks on each other and stuff. So I legitimately thought that he was kidding, like about being angry. I thought him being angry was a joke, and so I think I laughed like when he was telling me that he was mad about this.
Like patting him on the back. That's good. That's good.
Like he got me. How funny is this? Whatever. And then he like hands me the write up form to sign. I was like, wait, like, you're serious? And he was like, basically like, yes, you're the person in charge. If someone were to get hurt, we could get sued and be held liable and workers' comp and all this other stuff. And I get it all now.
Yeah.
But it's a great story now because no one did get hurt and it wasn't a big deal. And I got my one write up because I was the person in charge. So I let it happen and I was the one responsible, even though I didn't participate. And I videoed, and he watched the restaurant camera footage of me videoing them doing it.
That is
And here's
so
the thing.
funny.
One of the reasons he was mad, I did not realize that they had done it for like 15, 20 minutes because I was in the back. And so he's watching it thinking I just like let it go on 15, 20 minutes. I saw it happen twice. And so I was like, oh, they did this thing twice. That's funny. and it had like gone on for a while, and that's one of the reasons he was mad. Anyway, it was.
And since we've talked to Jeremy,
Yep.
or you've talked to Jeremy, and I mean, I think he just laughed about it, and he's like, "Yeah,
Oh yeah. Again,
I'm the guy that wrote up Jacob Carnes."
That's right. It's all funny now. You know, at the book launch party, we had a bunch of people who worked at Chick-fil-A with me, and he was there, and we told that story to everyone. And yeah, he can laugh about it now. The infamous write-up, the one I got in my 10 years at Chick-fil-A, the one time I've officially only gotten in trouble at work. So there's a fun one that did not make the book.
That's so good.
Well, thank you so much, Addie, for this interview. Who knows? Maybe we'll have you back here on the Waves Business Coaching podcast.
Yes, I would love it.
Well, look, if you want to learn how to master your first job and have fun at work, be sure to go to masteryourfirstjob.com, which is linked in the episode description. And we've got, again, 10 wonderful chapters to help people master their first job. And if you're a business owner, again, I've heard from business owners that this has been a wonderful resource. I talked to one yesterday who is a Chick-fil-A operator and said that this will now be part of their orientation. They're going to hand a new copy of the book to every team member that gets hired as a way to invest in them and help them see their first job as more than just a job, something they can invest in and get a return on later. So go to masteryourfirstjob.com. And if you're a business owner and you want to know how you can partner with me to work with your team and teach them how to master your first job, again, go to masteryourfirstjob.com/work, and you can see how to work with me and partner with us here at Waves Business Coaching. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. Take care.
See ya.